This video is about the questions from several friends regarding the interpretation of Sahil Bloom's The 5 Types of Wealth. Below are our responses, for reference only. Question 1. Zhuangzi said, "My life is limited, while knowledge is limitless. To pursue the limitless with the limited is perilous." Meanwhile, Gandhi said, "Learn as if you were to live forever." Are these two views contradictory? How can this contradiction be reconciled? Response. This is indeed a profound question. Throughout history, very few people have given a clear answer to it. I cannot claim to give a definitive explanation, but I would like to humbly share my understanding. The line, "My life is limited, while knowledge is limitless. To pursue the limitless with the limited is perilous," comes from Zhuangzi Yang Shengshu. Literally, it means that human life is finite, while knowledge is infinite. To exhaust one's limited life in chasing infinite knowledge will inevitably lead to fatigue or danger, depending on how one interprets the character, Dai. But in any case, the outcome is undesirable. Imagine someone who spends all his time reading and studying, obsessed with becoming the most erudite person around, only to burn himself out and ruin his health by his 30s. Surely Zhuangzi would disapprove. But why did Zhuangzi say this in the first place? Did people in his time really face the same problem of endlessly cramming for exams and official posts? Why criticize people for seeking knowledge? Looking at the full text of Yang Shengshu, its central parable is, "Cook Ding carves the ox." The widely accepted theme is that people should not forcefully resist the flow of the world. One should neither strive too hard to be virtuous nor succumb to being corrupt, but rather survive by slipping through the gaps of worldly rules, entering through what has no thickness into the spaces where there is room. The question is, how should we evaluate this idea? Some scholars who worship the classics tend to sanctify Zhuangzi, calling this an incomparably profound, uniquely Chinese philosophy of life. But for strict Confucian thinkers like Zhu Xi or Qing Yi, Zhuangzi's words amounted to little more than a philosophy of expedience, bureaucratic pragmatism, or perhaps a manual of survival. Isn't this just a recipe for being slick and evasive, like the non-stick types found in every institution? Is treating your job as a form of life nurturing really something profound? Within this context, Zhuangzi's statement seems to imply that striving for ever higher knowledge is unnecessary. After all, if your goal is merely to preserve your life, then fame and reputation gained from knowledge will only bring you danger. A scholar has offered a defense of Zhuangzi. The world of Zhuangzi's time was extremely dangerous. Intellectuals could easily be coerced into official service, and even survival was precarious. In that environment, blending in with the masses might indeed have been the safer choice. If we see it this way, Zhuangzi's statement was not a rejection of knowledge per se, but a forced compromise. He already knew enough to recognize the risks of knowing too much. So he refrained from going further. Much like a beautiful woman in turbulent times who might hide her beauty for fear of disaster. Only those who had reached the level of a true intellectual elite could make such a remark. For an illiterate person to say learning is too tiring, I'd rather not study, would be laughable. In my view, however, Zhuangzi was not as petty as Zhu Xi and Qing Yi imagined. When we read Zhuangzi, we should not start with Yang Shengshu. We should start with the Great Master. The opening line of the Great Master is, "He who knows what heaven does, and what man does, has reached the utmost." From the outset, Zhuangzi stresses the importance of true understanding. Read the whole chapter. What he praises is not the slick bureaucrat, but the true person. And the true person is not someone who shrinks in fear and clings to life. Rather, he is someone who gracefully accomplishes great things without leaving a trace, someone who acts without anxiety or excess attachment. The core of Zhuangzi's thought is not smoothness, but freedom. Smoothness is about adapting to the system, not letting the ox's bones injure you. Freedom is about transcending the system, dismantling the ox with ease, while others mistakenly think you struggled or regretted having to do it. Zhu Xi and Qing Yi, by contrast, were verbal rebels. They could not get things done, resented it, and drowned themselves in motivational slogans. If we accept Zhuangzi's conception of the true person, then the key word in "to pursue the limitless with the limited is perilous" is pursue. Sway means to follow, to be led passively. Zhuangzi was saying, if you merely chase after external knowledge without inner stability, you are being driven by it. And that is unhealthy. Does this mean we should abandon the limitless in favor of the limited? Not at all. The answer lies in the Great Master. To understand human affairs, is to use what one's knowledge already grasps to nourish what one's knowledge does not yet grasp, and thus live out one's natural span without premature death. This is the fullness of knowledge. My interpretation is this. When it comes to worldly matters, politics, hidden rules, survival strategies, we must remain centered on ourselves. Build your own system, develop inner conviction and spiritual wealth. Then you can face any situation with adaptability, whether in Shandong or Guangdong, without needing to constantly consult guides or gossip. Thus, Zhuangzi's warning, to pursue the limitless with the limited is perilous, was aimed at those who drown themselves in endless news and trivialities without building an inner compass. External information is infinite. Consuming too much of it yields diminishing returns. But the way can be learned. We should look inward, examine the depth of our own heart, and ask ourselves how far we still are from becoming a true person. Question 2. What if I don't have anything I love, nothing I'm good at, and no idea what the world needs? Response. There isn't a fixed solution to this. Imagine. If someone is wealthy, then naturally they should persist in doing what they love, regardless of whether the world needs it or not. But if someone is struggling to make a living, then they must prioritize meeting society's needs. But in the end, none of that is the key point. The point is, you are a human being, not a fixed set of metrics. If this were a soccer video game, and a player had poor offense, poor defense, and poor stamina, then there's nothing to discuss. You'd just bench him. But a real human being cannot be reduced to a few stats. Because you are human, you can grow. What you don't love today, you may learn to love tomorrow. What you're not good at now, you may become good at later. As long as your curiosity remains alive and your natural instincts aren't extinguished, you'll always want to become a different, better version of yourself. The greatest gift of curiosity is that it drives you to try new things. If you think you don't love anything and aren't good at anything, it's only because you haven't tried enough. After all these years of evolution, every person's genes serve a purpose. Perhaps the very next thing you try will turn out to be something you both love and may eventually excel at. Question 3. What I want to ask is, since today's basic models in physics either come from microscopic particles or from the large-scale universe, does that mean everyday observable phenomena no longer contribute anything to physics theory? Response. We can divide physics into two types. The first type, as we mentioned earlier, is the study of the fundamental laws of physics. The most essential rules, the blueprint or source code that God used to design the universe, also called the first principles. This type of physics usually includes high-energy particle physics, general relativity, cosmology, string theory, and so on. It doesn't have much to do with daily life. Simple Newtonian laws already describe rocket motion very well, and undergraduate-level electromagnetism is more than enough for electrical engineers. You only see the differences between simple theories and the latest theories under extremely special conditions. For example, speeds close to the speed of light, scales as large as galaxies or as small as atoms. In everyday contexts, the simple theories work perfectly well, though they aren't the ultimate truth. If your ambition is to understand the fundamental origins of the universe, then everyday life isn't really relevant. But fundamental laws alone cannot directly explain everything in daily life, because there are many layers between the most basic rules and the macroscopic world. For example, the rules of the game of Go are simple and known, but if you look at the record of a master's game, you might not understand it at all. That's because their play isn't derived directly from the rules, but from intermediate principles they've studied and summarized. This leads us to the second type of physics, the study of intermediate-level laws. In principle, these laws can be derived mathematically from the fundamental rules. But it's not so easy, because the calculations are enormously complex. This branch includes statistical physics, condensed matter physics, fluid dynamics, and so on. Each requires specialized experiments, from which scientists derive formulas that are largely empirical. These are models with built-in assumptions, and as long as those assumptions don't contradict the fundamental laws of physics, they are valid. This second type of physics is very much connected to daily life. The simplest example is turbulence. When you turn on a faucet from low to high, the flow of water takes on very different patterns. Why those patterns appear as they do is something we still can't fully explain. We have equations for fluid flow, but the amount of data is so huge that solving them exactly is nearly impossible. Phenomena like superconductivity, weather forecasting, and even social networks are similar to turbulence. Complex phenomena that involve both the microscopic and the macroscopic, but are too computationally demanding for us to summarize into intuitive and precise laws. Concepts like chaos and emergence all fall into this category of physics. Simply put, for the simplest fundamental laws of physics, we still haven't fully uncovered the truth. For the most complex large-scale phenomena, our computational power and mental capacity are still insufficient for complete understanding. For now, we can only manage easier things like interstellar travel, nuclear weapons, and computer chips. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.